Good morning, friends. Welcome back to She's At It Again, and I'm Tanya. I want you to stick around. We're going to make some baked macaroni and cheese. Now, if you're not a fan of baked macaroni and cheese, I'm breaking the news to you now. You're one of the few. But if you do love baked macaroni and cheese, it's one of those comfort foods that you think, side? No, it's not a side dish. It is the dish. So you just kind of eat the meat and eat the salad just to pretend you're making a well-rounded meal there, but the macaroni and cheese is definitely the star of the show. So stick with me. I have my saucepan heating up. I have my water on the boil over here. We're going to cook our pasta in a separate pot. We're going to make our sauce, our roux, in the saucepan on this side. So what I have here is 2 cups of just organic raw pasta. This is not macaroni, because organic macaroni, sometimes I have it in the pantry and sometimes I don't, but I found some Ditali pasta, which is just little short noodles, and those are going to be just fine. So really and truly, any kind of pasta you want, even if you wanted to use spaghetti, it would be fine in this. So we're going to cook that in our boiling water. As soon as that gets going, I'm going to add just a little bit of salt to that. It's not absolutely necessary, but I'll salt that water just a bit. I have my extra sharp cheddar cheese already shredded over there. I encourage you not to use prepackaged shredded cheese because it has a coating on it that will just not give it the same texture. It's going to kind of prevent it from the melting process and being real smooth and pretty. I have 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter here. I'm going to put that in our saucepan and we're going to get it melted. Like I said, we're going to make our cheese sauce in this pan, our pasta in this pan, and then we're going to combine it toward the end and put it in a pan. That way we can bake it off later. Now, it's just mid-morning here. It's a little after 9:30, and I won't serve this until later on this evening. I'll take some to my neighbor who isn't feeling well, and then we're going to eat part of it as well. But I will make this ahead of time, let it sit on the countertop and cool off, and maybe if it cools off enough, I can stick it in the fridge. If it doesn't cool off enough, it just goes straight in the oven this evening, and we'll bake it off. And it doesn't take that long to bake it either. We'll turn our heat on about medium for our cheese sauce. And I'm going to get a small whisk. If you've never made a roux before, let me just explain what that is. I don't want to assume that people know what that is. Roux is spelled R-O-U-X, and it is basically kind of the beginnings to a gravy. So it's oil plus flour plus your liquid. And what that's going to do is make a thick gravy. So this starts out looking like a paste when you have the oil and the flour mixed. Then when you slowly add your liquid to it, it turns into that gravy. You whisk it and it's a beautiful gravy. So basically you make gravy, and whatever you add to it determines what your recipe is needing at that point. So this is going to be our cheese sauce. To that melted butter, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of plain flour. I have to keep checking my cameras, make sure it's picking up a picture of it. I forget what it's pointed at. So the object of the roux, or one of the things you want to do with the roux, I should say, is wait until it starts turning brown to add your liquid. You want that floury taste to be cooked out of it. You don't want it to taste like flour. You can go ahead and add your 1 teaspoon of dry mustard to the flour at this point. And a teaspoon of salt. It is starting to rain outside, so if it sounds like there's some splattering or spattering of bacon or something going on in the background, it's just rain on my vent pipe above my vent hood. So I'm still keeping an eye over here on my water, waiting on it to boil to put my pasta in. I have my 2½ cups of milk, whole milk over there, ready to pour in this when this starts browning just a bit. A roux is your base to so many things to get started. A lot of cream soups start out as this. Cream of mushroom soup when you make it homemade, which is super easy, and that's one of the few videos that I need to get done real quick because it's almost the basis for any casserole that you're going to make. And I promise I'll get that out. Lord willing, I will make that video. So, but milk gravy, brown gravy, anything like that, you've got to have a roux for it. Most Cajun food, like etouffee and things like that, start out with a roux. But the key to it is browning the mixture without letting it get too browned. All right, we're going to start pouring our liquid in. Now remember, you got cold liquid hitting a hot pan, so you're going to have steam coming up, so just be aware of that. I'm whisking it because it will thicken as it heats up. So just pour a bit in at a time, and whisk it a bit to get the lumpy parts out. Then once you get enough in there, you can just go ahead and add the rest of the liquid without worrying about it clumping up. Make sure you get the thicker part that's settled into the corners of your pan. That's why I use a small whisk, because the loop is a little bit smaller and it fits into that sharp corner on some of the pans. Okay, this will take a little bit to thicken up, so we'll leave that for right now. To that, we're going to be adding our shredded cheese, and I have it over there behind me, so we'll wait for that to thicken up. And this is called a spider. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this, you can use any slotted spoon. You don't even have to have a slotted spoon. You can use the lid to the pan and drain off the water after a while, but I like using my spider just because I can take it and add it over to my other pan. My pasta's so small, I'm hoping it doesn't go through those little wires in there, but I don't think it will. For anybody who's never had homemade baked macaroni and cheese, if you're still thinking, I like the box stuff, my kids like the box stuff, feed your kids the box stuff, that's fine. You fix some of this, and I'm telling you, you will never go back to the boxed kind. Yeah, there's no way. There's no way that you could enjoy the boxed kind as much as this. We have a rather large family on my maternal grandparents' side, and back before most of them started passing on just a few years ago, we had a big family reunion every year, not too far from here. I mean, it is out in the middle of nothing. You drive through this little town and you think it looks like an abandoned town, and lo and behold, there's cars parked at this community building, and that's where they're having a family reunion. But we've had it at the lake, we've had it at the park, had it several places, and it's always so much fun to get together with these people that you only really see once a year, and you're related to all of them, and we all kind of look alike. Well, sort of. But somebody would inevitably show up with macaroni and cheese every single year, and as a kid, we never ate hardly anything cold unless it was meant to be cold, like potato salad or something like that. Ice cream, of course. But somebody would show up at the family reunion with baked macaroni and cheese, and by the time we ate, it was cold. But honestly, I never cared. I knew that macaroni and cheese was going to show up. I knew it was going to be baked. I knew it was going to be good, and I didn't care if it was half frozen. I was going to eat some of that stuff. I looked forward to that stuff, and I don't know why. My grandmother made this stuff all the time, so I don't know what was so special about the macaroni and cheese at the family reunion. Never, ever found out who brought it. I have no clue to this day who brought that macaroni and cheese, but that was my salvation as a kid. I never knew what else was going to be there. It was always good, but that macaroni and cheese was the best. So if you're one of my long-lost relatives watching this, or maybe you're not lost, maybe you're just a relative watching this, and you're thinking, I wonder if she's talking about the Malone family reunions. I am. That was a lot of fun. We'd have it at the lake in the summertime, and the kids would be swimming, and the old people would be up there talking to one another, and just the stories they would tell. Oh my word, my granddad was the center of shenanigans, telling about cheating at baseball and how they would play tricks on people when they were kids. Oh my word, it's a wonder these people even survived to old age. They just had the most fun. They were living their best life, but I'm telling you, they can get into more trouble than any kids I'd ever heard of in my life. Nowadays, they would have been arrested, but those Malone boys, they could tell some stories. Even if it wasn't true, they were good stories. All right, my pasta water is starting to boil. I'm going to go ahead and pour the pasta in there. Give that a stir so it won't stick together. Let's put a lid on that. I have to keep an eye on it because it will start bubbling over. I am the queen of boiling over everything. Okay, I'm just going to stir this, so a boring next few minutes, just watching it till it gets thick. Okay, our mixture is starting to boil right now. So at that point, you need to keep whisking it because it's a dairy product and it is loaded with protein that will have a tendency to scorch and stick to the bottom of the pan. So with your small whisk, just keep stirring and scratching that bottom, making sure you keep it all scraped clean. We'll turn our heat down just below medium right now. Unlike thickening something with cornstarch, once you thicken something with flour, it's not going to lose its thickening capabilities. Remember, I've talked about before in other videos that if you thicken something with cornstarch, you want to cook it until it gets thick, then take it off the heat, because if you keep cooking cornstarch, it's going to revert back to not being a thickening agent. So it will go back to being watery again. Unlike that is flour, where it maintains its thickening capabilities and it stays thick. So you can just cook and cook and cook and cook and cook it, and it's going to stay thick and might even get thicker once it starts reducing all that liquid out of it. So we just want this to get thick enough to where it makes a sauce, which is not hard to recognize. This is not rocket science. And I say that, and people say, oh, but you've cooked for a long time. I have, but this really is not hard. You're probably not going to goof this up. If you do, it would be because you walk off and do something else and let it scorch and stick to the bottom of the pan. But that's not a strong possibility if you're paying attention. So basically what you're looking for is this to kind of turn into a gravy. Trying to keep an eye on this over here too. I'm using extra sharp cheddar cheese. You are welcome to use just regular cheddar cheese. You can use Gruyere, you can use Gouda, you can use Monterey Jack if you want. Whatever tickles your fancy, you use that kind of cheese. But I prefer the extra sharp cheddar. Sometimes the sharper the better on stuff like this. See, I almost let that bubble over. Guys, what's wrong with me? My stovetop has been baptized more than once in boiling water. Just kind of expect that when I cook something like that. A cold, rainy day is the perfect day to make baked macaroni and cheese. And we have a cold, rainy day here. It's pretty cloudy outside, and we're finally getting some much needed rain. But I'm kind of living vicariously through my sister who lives in central Oklahoma, and they are getting snow today. It is crazy bad weather there. So if I know it's cold at her house, it just seems colder at my house, even though it's like 70 degrees outside here. Okay, you can now see that this has gotten pretty thick. It's not really leaving much of a trail when I run the whisk through it, but it's close to that point. So I'm going to turn my heat off, and I'm going to start adding my cheese. And that's why we like those flexible cutting mats. All right, all of our cheese in there. Now this is 8 ounces of extra sharp cheddar, which is 2 cups. And that is a pretty cheese sauce. This could also be used for something like topping broccoli, for broccoli and cheese. You can, use it for a lot of different applications, but this is a great cheese sauce just because of that mustard in there. Gives it that little bit of a tartness, and it is quite lovely. All right, we'll set that barely off the burner and wait for this to finish cooking. Okay, our pasta is done. So I'm just going to scoop it out, turn my burner off. All right, I got them all. Now switched over to a spatula because I'm fixing to have to scrape this out to pour it into the baking pan. Isn't that pretty? All right, to our baking pan. I've taken some butter and coated the pan. Gotta get all that last bit of cheese out of there. Okay, so right now I'm gonna let this cool off and we will pop it in the oven tonight and make it with our dinner. And I'll come back and show you what the finished product looks like. We're gonna bake this off at, let me look at my recipe here. We're gonna cook it in a 350-degree oven for 20 to 25 minutes. Now, if you make this right before dinner time and you're ready to put it in the oven, by all means, go ahead and put it in the oven. You're just gonna have less cooking time because it doesn't have to warm up and then bake. So this is, this can be eaten as it is, but baked is even better. So you'll see what I mean when you taste it. So hope you've enjoyed this, but stay tuned just a little bit and we'll show you what it looks like and the finished product. Thanks. All right, we have our finished product here, our baked macaroni and cheese. Oh, I better get a spoon. That always helps. All right, got a spoon. Let's take the foil off. All right, that's our baked macaroni and cheese. You can see the finished product. All right, now you know. Hope you give it a try. Thanks for watching.